Hello, Roomby. We're going to go ahead and start a new session. It's by Dr. Tope from Kentucky State University. The title is Helping Small-Scale and Socially Disadvantaged Farmers with Irrigation Water Quality.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Are we here? It's that time of the day, right after lunch, exactly 40 minutes after lunch. With that kind of a lunch, we generally know what happens 40 minutes after. And I do notice some ramifications or things going that route, and I'll wake you up if you want me to. I'm glad you are all here. My name is Avinash, last name is Tope. I'm the Associate Dean here in the College of Agriculture, Health and Natural Resources. Till this August, I was the Interim Director for Land Grant Program here at Kentucky State. Oh, thank you. So, this afternoon, I am going to be talking a little bit about, briefing you all about a facility we have created across the 4 sides of the state starting in 2022 that helps folks like us to get our water, irrigation water that you use. It could be creek, it could be pond, it could be groundwater, it could be municipal water, depending on the nature of water you guys use to irrigate your land with. And we are attempting to get everyone who uses that water, get it tested for harmful bacteria. It's a long slide. We are a small farmer state. 69,000 farmers here, 69,000 farms are categorized, are considered small farms, and we are a small farm state. 2/3 of who we are as farmers, we belong to this category. Meaning, every one of us produces enough who falls into that category. A few are farming for our personal consumption, but not all. Quite a few of us are putting that produce out into the market as well. And markets will not want, because we are relatively smaller, we may or may not be asked to contract with the large players, which means if you are a small farmer, we are on a yo-yo status. You are on your own status. Agree? We do produce out, and we do put it out in the market, but we don't have to necessarily be abiding with the agreement as the large farmers have to go through. Any faithful farmer will not want to produce anything and put in the market that can be deleterious for the consumer. No, sir, that's not a farmer. Agree? So, knowing what we may run into, knowing what we do, it is important that we get a few things that are part of our farm safety plan. We all have a farm safety plan. We are required to have one. As a part of that, we are expected to have something called your water quality testing, which is a big chunk of your farm safety plan. Am I not preaching to the choir here, or am I speaking Latin? I'm preaching to the choir here. We all do this, right? So most of us, that one of our surveys revealed, most of us use surface water. It could be creek, it could be pond, it could be river, which is open for fluctuations that depend on Mother Nature. After a couple of days like these, we are going to see some levels rising up. The runoff picking up a whole lot of water from surrounding areas. It's going to have more contaminants coming in, and those contaminants are going to settle down. Come a warmer time, those contaminants are going to get concentrated. We are talking what? Surface water. So surface water fluctuations are more regular, they are periodic, they follow the nature cycle. And one of the important aspects is E. coli. I'm sure you guys have been following news every other day. Today's report, I was reading some 16 million pounds of beef. Today's news has been recalled for suspected E. coli contamination. Three weeks ago, I think I read about chicken somewhere in the range of 12 million some pounds. And there are regular recalls because of E. coli contamination, and E. coli contamination. E. coli loves produce, E. coli loves meats. Is there anything spared in between? And with water being the source, being the soul of all produce operations, because if you have contaminated water that you are using for irrigation, you are amplifying that contamination. You are broadcasting that contamination on your standing crop. So, if water for us is life, so it is for plants, so it is for produce. Contaminated water, contaminated produce. Simple, straight line. And we are talking what? Surface water. Surface water is going to pick up creeks and ponds. They are going to pick up water from a barn, from a poultry farm, from a barn. We are Kentucky, a state with rolling hills. Our next door neighbor has a barn up the hill. On a good rainy event, can you control that water? Can you blame your neighbor for locating their barn up on the hill? There is no chance. Every farm being different, every farm has a different topology. Everything is going to depend on who you are, where you are located. Good so far? Any questions? So, the purpose of the project is to improve income and economic opportunities for small and socially disadvantaged farmers by helping develop. So, what we are essentially trying to do through the project is, this is way too much, so I'm going to go here. It's to provide water quality testing to determine presence and quantification of coliform bacteria and E. coli. Coliform bacteria are the same bacteria all mammals have in their guts, including humans. All those bacteria that we house in our small and large intestines are called coliform bacteria. One amongst them happens to be E. coli, the largest in number that we house. It's not just us, it could be goats, it could be swine, it could be cattle, it could be cows, it could be horses, it could be donkeys, it could be mules. You have a mammal, and dogs, cats, we all house the same set of bacteria. Their presence in our drinking water, especially E. coli, the generic E. coli, is a confirmation that somewhere close by there is a leakage and there is animal excreta or human excreta making its way into the water system. My E. coli count in the water that we are all supposed to be drinking is expected to be at 0. Their presence is a frank indicator of what we call fecal-oral route of exposure. Feces of some source of mammals gaining entry into another mammal's oral route, fecal-oral route. Yeah, I want to make it sound nasty right after 45 minutes from lunch. We wanted to offer consultations to producers on microbial water test results and provide mitigation strategies and provide educational support. That's what we are trying to do. And essentially connect farmers to resources to increase their sales by making your produce safer to be put out into the market by just abiding with the Food Safety Modernization Act. So what all types of waters get used? We are looking at groundwater. How do we define it? It's the source of water from beneath the surface of the earth. The Food Safety Modernization Act, which was implemented in 2014, has gone through some changes this August. Till then, according to FSMA, Food Safety Modernization Act, it was required that if you are using groundwater, we needed to have initially 4 samples to be tested over for the first year and at least 1 sample every year as a part of your farm safety plan. If you were to be using surface water, which is essentially defined as water from streams, rivers, lakes, ponds, for the first year, for the first 4 years, we were required to have 20 samples needed, tested over 2 years to 4 years per growing season. Any idea why these many samples if you are using surface? By the way, how many of you are produce growers? How many do we have in the audience that actually are in produce cultivation? How many of you have small farms that actually are engaged in anything green produce of any sort, tomatoes, potatoes, anything? Cover crops, perfect, yep. So if you are using surface water, which could mean creek, ponds, lakes, we are required to have 20 samples, test 20 samples in the first 2 to 4 years. Any reason why that many? Why do we need to get so many samples tested in the first 4 years? For the same reason, because it goes through a lot of fluctuations, because it is open to nature. It fluctuates, the E. coli count can fluctuate that high for that very reason. And after the first 4 years, we are expected to get those tested. We were required to get those sampled, 5 samples every year after that. The first 20 samples would help you to figure out what's exactly going on at your property with E. coli count. Where is your baseline? For one sample, 2 samples, 3 samples, you may not get the whole picture. Hence, 20 samples. Over what? 5 years. So you actually get to know, hey, what time of the year does it peak? What time of the year does it ebb? And together, if I'm going to average it out, what's my baseline here? Make sense? So, project at a glance, we got funded by USDA. USDA's arm called Agricultural Marketing Service, which is the AMS part. And we were funded to create labs to help folks like us to get our water samples tested. So we created 4 labs across the state. One happens to be in Whitesburg, located in the Appalachian groundswell area. If anybody is from Eastern Kentucky and is familiar with Whitesburg, it is the old post office. That's a landmark in the town by itself. So we are located in the basement of the post office, which is currently used as a community center. In LaRue County Conservation District, which is located in Hodgenville, we are in the close to a downtown area, right in the shadow of the big square in Hodgenville area. We have one in our campus at Kentucky State University. And the fourth one happens to be in Bowling Green in our extension office, KSU's extension office. So here are some pictures of me talking to the farmers in Christian County, mostly Mennonites and that group, in Hodgenville, and here is my colleague John trying to work in Whitesburg. So what exactly did we do? We collected samples, and we do collect samples from producers that were brought in. So this is the report of the last 2 years' activities. If you want to stop by, we have a booth outside, stall outside, that has got a kit. And the kit has got gloves, a water sample bottle, there is a sign-in sheet. So the way we work with you is, if you are interested, just let us know, share your details about where exactly is your farm located, what kind of water sample, what kind of water do you use for irrigation purposes, whether it's ground, surface, cistern water. That's catching up a lot of attention these days, especially in the urban settings. So we ask you that question about where exactly are you located, what kind of water do you use. We give you a URL on a YouTube that actually shows how to pick up your water sample if you are using. And by the way, if you are using municipal water for your produce, then you are exempt. Any idea why? It is already being tested. Your municipality has already taken care of that part. So you are exempt. If you are using municipal water, excellent. If you are using municipal water, you are exempt. You don't need to do anything. So that URL essentially walks you through how to collect your sample. And if you give us a tip up, meaning if you give us an advance notification by about a couple of days, we will stop by at your farm to pick up the water sample. All you got to do is label on it whatever farm label, whatever name you have on your farm, or your name, choose whatever you want to call it. The time and the date the sample was collected. If we are at a distance of 3 to 4 hours of driving, we would suggest you that after you pick up the sample, keep it in the fridge or on an ice box. We do come over, pick up your sample, bring it back to the lab the same day. If we cannot by any chance make it the same day, we ask you to keep it in the fridge. It is good for 2 days. The next day, latest by morning, we should have come and picked it up. Good so far? We bring it to the closest lab where you are located. It doesn't have to come to Frankfurt. We run the test. The test essentially goes through this process. We bring it in, add a couple of reagents, put it in a bag, essentially a tray. That tray gets sealed, incubated for a day. Next day the results are out. We record what we get, this is how it gets done. It is the same test that FDA, EPA implement. So this is approved by FDA. If you want to take it to any court of law, this has the needed scientific validity, which means I'm not doing anything that is substandard. So the yellow ones, the wells that look yellow in color are coliform bacteria, or it's a cluster of families that all mammals house in our GI tract. Their presence and their number matters in defining how clean your water is. But those are not the only ones that we keep an eye on. What we keep an eye on are these guys. So the same tray, which initially appeared like this, it's the same tray. We put it under UV light. The yellow one, out of the ones that were yellow, a few of them fluoresce blue, when I put them under UV light. The blue colored ones are the ones, the fluorescing ones are actually the ones that have got E. coli, the rogues. Are we good so far? Yep, the ones that are glowing in blue, not the ones that are not glowing, the ones that are glowing, the fluorescing one means there is E. coli. These are turning blue only because there is a particular ingredient in the food which only E. coli can use, not the rest of the family members. E. coli are the only ones that have got the ability to use it, and once they use it, once they consume it, one of their products make them fluoresce blue under UV light, which is how we distinguish between all those that are from the coliform bacteria to the E. coli. So, this is what has happened so far in the last 2 years. We have sampled somewhere close to about 280 some samples. These are the different places, these are the counties: Allen, Christian, Edmondson, Monroe, Warren, Boyd, Casey, Fayette. And this actually tells you what percentage of those came from groundwater, how many were surface waters. So, you get the report depending on how you wanted us to share the reports to you, whether it was a text message. So, from the day I pick it up, I need about a day and a half to 2 to get back with you to let you know what we found on your water sample, whether the E. coli count was within the permissible limit or whether it had crossed the limits. And if it had crossed the limits, we would like you to work on that water sample at least 3 times. In 3 repeated testings, if the numbers still stay high, then we call you, okay sir or okay ma'am. Looks like in the last all the 3 samples that you shared from your site, the numbers are consistently high. Do you need any help? Which means you have some cattle or you have something, some animal very close by to the source of the water that you are using for irrigation purpose. And in that situation, it is a good idea to figure out what is going on. Do you need a buffer zone, or are you getting some undercurrents from some other property? Things of that nature. Am I making sense? All right. Yes. So, in all, we got somewhere close to about 279 samples so far. Okay? 78.6 were good. The count was less than. The count was, that's good. The count was less than the 126 CFU per 100 ml. That's the cutoff point. Meaning we do not want to see 126 individual E. coli cells in 100 ml of water that we draw from your sample. That's the cutoff point. So, what this chart is trying to say here on the left hand side, of the 280 that we sampled, somewhere to the 79% of the samples have always come within the limit. 21.5% were off limit, meaning they had more than the permissible number. Okay? On this one, that was about the total. If we were to look at how many of them were groundwater out of the 280, somewhere 273 samples that we tested were groundwater, and they were clean. 61% of them had no issues. On surface water, the numbers are now tricky. It is almost equal between those that were within limit, those that were over the limit, which is a given. Because surface water is what you are looking at in terms of creeks, ponds, lakes, which are more open for fluctuations. Make sense? 0.7% doesn't make sense. We have to do the math. For scientific purposes, we still have to report. 1% doesn't make a difference. We are a teaching institution, sir. Does that make sense? Any questions so far? What was the success? Is there a success story to hear? Yeah, we have provided somewhere total number of farmers on board is close to about what, 90? We have been able to service about 90 farmers. The whole idea is, hey, while you are doing in the best faith, the best practices, it's a good idea to get your water tested and confirm that what you are doing is just fine. Rest assured that what you are putting out in the market is not making anybody sick. While you are doing your part as faithfully as you are equipped with, just get it reconfirmed, recorroborated that, hey, you are on track, nothing to worry. Or there seems to be a problem there, you can get it mitigated. I had 2 farmers whose samples consistently came up and above for a year and a half. So we had to call, sit down, find out what's going on. We went over there. Lo and behold, the pond that they were drawing the water from to irrigate was right next to a rolling hill, right beneath the rolling hill, and up on the rolling hill was the neighbor's barn. Any big time, any big runoff event, big rain, snow, meltdown and whatnot, the whole thing came down. Springtime is when they started to go in operations. Big events, big rain events, yeah, there was a steady spike. And they brought that sample 3 weeks in a row. So that was not a surprise. Came summertime, late in almost September, the values went down because of the dry weather. So they were able to establish the cutoff point on if we were to have randomly, picked up their samples any time of the year, how many E. coli per 100 ml to expect. And that's the very reason why this requirement has been put by FSMA. Go figure out what's going on your water samples, on your property. Make sense? Did you have your hand up?
I just want to say we could be doing everything on our farm, right? But because the farm next to us isn't paying attention or whatever.
Or just the location.
Oh, the location.
They might be doing everything they can, they should. But just because of the topography, just because of the way each farm is located, things can change, things can vary.
So it's not necessarily that they're doing anything wrong. It's just that where the location is. So would you change?
Then we would suggest, hey, how you can create a buffer zone.
Oh, a buffer zone, that's where that comes in.
That's where those buffer zone ideas come in. What would be the right thing to do to create one? How do you create one? And when you do create one, does it help?
Well, if the buffer zone comes down, where would that water go?
It doesn't have to, that water still gets filtered through the buffer.
Oh, it gets filtered.
It gets substantially filtered. Before it actually gets into the source where you draw the water from, you give enough time and space for that water to stabilize, for these things to settle down and then get into your water body.
So you wouldn't be shifting it.
No.
clean it.
You just put in some mitigation there. And by the way, do you know how much we charge per sample? What? Free? Are you kidding me? Free? We are in 2024? November of 2024 and free? Yes, it is free. Yes, the whole service is free. Yes, ma'am.
Just saying it's zero.
0. You had your hand up.
Safety plan for every farm. Where, do you know where those templates, where we can get those templates from?
Great. I can get you connected with someone who might have that. Were you here with Sharon Spencer presented? I'll get you in touch with her. I'll get you. Good question. Very good question. Very good question. The question was, where do I get a template for the farm safety plan? So what is the template and what are the features that I'm supposed to put in place? Am I right? Yeah, I'll get you connected with Sharon. She should be able to get you with that. Any questions? We deal with the dirty stuff. So there is no question that is dirty. Especially we talk. Can I simplify a few things here for lack of brevity? Shitty waters only spread shitty stuff on clean produce. In simple lingo, and we don't want that to happen. I'm using all fancy words, fecal-oral route of exposure and contamination, right? In simple, straight lingo, shitty stuff should not be found on anything that we eat or drink. And while we do, as farmers, everything in good faith, best practices, do we know every time it is really working? Yeah, we can help you with that. And water, being the core part of any operation, any farm operation, it can be a bane, it can be a boon. Most of the time it is a boon. It has the margin between bane and boon is so thin, we want to ensure that it doesn't cross that line. Yes, sir.
If you're irrigating underground, is E. coli still?
It depends. It depends.
You got
Good.
drip line underground?
Excellent question. How is there a possibility of that E. coli to percolate all the way down if you are using groundwater as your irrigation? It depends again on how deep is your well, how close it is located with a big barn or a poultry farm and things of that nature. Because after a big runoff, that set of bacteria do stay on the surface for most of the time, and they do percolate. They do percolate. Now, it depends on what exactly is the depth of your well, your well that you draw water from, and the water table that you have it. If it is a superficial aquifer, meaning within 6 to 7 feet of digging you hit water, that water is bound to be contaminated. Versus a well that is about what, 45, 50 feet down, it's relatively safer because it's going to take that much amount of contaminants to be there in the water or on the surface to percolate through that deep. So it depends on where exactly is your source of water under the ground. 6, 7 feet, it is vulnerable. 60, 65 feet, relatively safer. Depending on where we are in Kentucky, our underwater, that's our aquifers, are quite rich in calcium and sulfur too. So sometimes when you dig out a well and draw water, it smells of sulfur. And that usually is very clean water, because at that level of sulfur, nothing survives. It's a natural disinfectant. But
Is that the smell of the eggshell?
yep.
Rotten egg?
No, that's a different thing. That's a different one. Sulfur does have a very strong smell. I'm going to draw a parody here, or I'm going to make it a little lighter. Witchcraft uses sulfur. Strong smell. That smell that your rotten egg means that water has got stagnated. It is hydrogen sulfide smell. There is a distinction between rotten egg smell and sulfur smell. Sulfur smell is very strong. This rotten egg smell means that water has gotten stagnated and there is no air in circulation. In biological words, we call it a very stagnant anaerobic system. There is no air in circulation. Something has been sitting there, organic matter has been sitting there, rotting.
So you wouldn't, I wouldn't, above ground irrigate, but I could, below ground irrigate the roots.
You can look, you are not forbidden from using any source of water. It could be surface water, it could be groundwater. As long as you are getting it tested and for E. coli, that's all you need to know. Nobody is forbidding you from using groundwater or surface water. You can use whatever is on your property, whatever you can.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying is, if I'm using if I'm irrigating,
Mhm.
and I've got the drip line, the plastic line down, and I'm pumping water from a pond or
Mhm.
a well,
Mhm.
is the E. coli liable to get into that plant system through the root system?
If the source is contaminated, the answer is a firm yes. The answer is a firm garbage in, garbage inside. It does get internalized.
Most irrigations is
Yes, yes. If your source is heavily contaminated and you still have your drip line going through, you are giving a very concentrated source of contaminated water to your standing crop. It's 100% success formula for getting it contaminated, your standing crop. 100% assured formula for contamination. Any questions? We are dealing, as I said, a shitty tropic. So nothing is dirty here. I can't believe I can buy silence like this so quickly. Thank you. I do strongly recommend you stop by on your way out. Onto your right, we have a little stall with the kit, and the kit has got everything you need: a sign-up sheet, pair of gloves, a sample water, a sample bottle for the actual bottle that you are going to collect your sample in, information brochure. What if you are using surface water, groundwater, cistern water, whatever. There are information brochures about each one of them, a YouTube link to how to collect it. And if you think you cannot collect for some reason, give us a couple of days advance notice that, hey, would one of you come by and pick up some sample for me? I'm located here, here, here. We will look you up, put you on the map, and we'll get you connected with whoever is our closest location for staff to come on over. We will pick up the sample for you. We will collect the sample for you. And in a 3 days time, you actually get a report. The report could be, if you prefer to have it on your text, you will get it as a text. You want an email, you will get it in an email. For some of my Mennonites, they don't believe in either of them. They wanted us to send them actual snail mail. Sure, we mailed them in regular mail. And that also didn't go to their respective homes. It went to an auction hall, which is where they actually operate from. That's fine. Because they had already given us the sample names, and mind you, when I bring it over to my lab, I won't know whose sample it is because we decode it. I'm not reporting Johnny's farm I got so and so, and Jenny's farm I got so and so. I don't know Johnny, I don't know Jenny. So this is not getting reported to any government agency at all. All I'm reporting to them is how many samples did I get, how many of them were groundwater, how many were on surface water, what was the count in each one of them. Really? You are off the hook. You are off the hook. If you're on city water, you're off the hook.
What is roof water considered?
Cistern water. Good question. She was trying to give me 4, meaning only 4 minutes left. And when I started, I said, I may not even last that long. Any questions? I'm here. I'll be around. Feel free to interact. Thank you. Thank you.
We are going to go for a 15-minute break, and then we're going to have one more session.